All right. So the button. Let's try this again to see if it actually worked this time. Oh, I think it did. So
Nice.
I think we're live. Yes. Okay. Okay. Cool. It works. So.
Nice.
That being said, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching. I have managed to, for the first time ever, do a live stream both on YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So I'm super proud of myself for that. Yay, me! But that being said, hello and welcome to everyone who is watching the Written in Melanin channel. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, hey, how you doing? Glad you can make it. And as you can see, you guys, we are here to do writing sprints. I know it is Wednesday. It is not our normal streaming day, but tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and we're going to be busy collectively. So we're streaming a day early. So that being said, I'm still toggling with settings over here, you guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. So if you see me clicking around, that's what I'm doing. All right, I'm just trying to make it look nice. All right.
Trying to curate the experience. Yes.
Yes. So, and it's interesting because I'm not sure. I usually have a chat box up here, but I'm not sure which source it is pulling from, whether it is pulling from Twitch or from YouTube. So I can see Emma and Tamara are here. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Glad you could make it and come hang out with us. But I don't know if it's showing or not, but you know, it is what it is. I can't fix everything, even though my perfectionist in me is like, do it now. So that being said, I've ranted long enough. How are you guys doing today, in general? Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm okay. It is a very gray day here in Santa Cruz, which I appreciate. I love a good like rainy, cold day. It's perfect for writing and just not giving a shit about anything.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm excited to write. Going to be writing a kind of pivotal scene, not
Ooh.
kind of a pretty pivotal scene in the book where we figure out the mystery of who murdered our character who's murdered. So hopefully it goes well, and then I'm not sitting here every time I check in like this ain't it. I'm gonna have to delete it, come back to the drawing board, appreciate this time. You know, I'm hoping for good writing. What about you?
I am kind of in the same space of like I've written so I've written worked on this story before in the past, but I kind of just like put it on the shelf to work on other projects because it's just like, you know, like how you can imagine how you want the story to go, but then you're reading it and you're like, this is not it. Like my skill is just not up to where I want this story to be. So basically I've been rewriting it from memory for a lot of it, and I'm just completely at new territory now. So it's a lot slower, right? And things are changing because the big thing that I have to deal with now is I had a character who has always been in a version of the story, whichever version I was working on, and I just kind of decided like last week that, you know, he was fun, but I don't think he's needed. So I'm gonna have to give him the axe, but his sister is going to stay in the story. So that's interesting. But today I'm just working on, you know me, I'm going to reread what I last wrote. I'm in the middle of writing like a flashback scene because, you know, all of my characters are assassins and they're closely connected to the gods that I've created in the story. And so each of them has like their own pivotal moment where they not only met a god but decided to become an assassin for the monarchy. So I'm writing my kind of last little bit of the flashback for one of my main characters. So I'm finishing that up, and hopefully, like you, I can actually get something done and not be like, well, I tried, you guys. So we'll
I know.
see.
That's the goal, but I think it's also like a couple of days before Christmas. We're a week or so out from the new year, and I think everybody's really just kind of limping towards the finish line. But if you are here and you've joined us, welcome. We are all trying our best together.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say this, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to Amanda. She is amazing. And there is a link in the description box below, so you can do that super easy. And
Yes.
I'm trying to think. Oh, also, if you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube, let us know what you are working on. How are things going? Yeah, let us know. Emma Decker. I can't talk. Is here. Finished my daily goal in like 2 hours today. Usually takes me twice that. The excess time the excess time left me time to spiral into self doubt, but was able to get back on track. Don't spiral into self doubt. We're just going to rebuke that in the name of Jesus. All right, we're not going to do that. And you got this. I mean, you finished in half the time. That's dope. I wish I could. I'm hoping that this is that, because my word count goal for today is like 2,000 words to stay on track for our January 10th exchange. And yeah, it's 2,000 words, so we're going to have to get it done. But yeah.
Well, you know, it depended. That's actually not a lot if you break it down into, let's say you can write 500 words in 30 minutes, let's just say, then that's 2 hours of work, and then you got your, your word count in. But it also, I know it's not that easy, because sometimes you'll be like, man, this is fire, I got 700 words, and then like me the last time, I got 165 little words there.
And that's the thing. It's just like sometimes it's not like a linear thing, because for me, it's like I know for a fact that if I sat down, I can knock out 2,000 words. That's like that's not an impossible goal for me. However, because like I said, I've hit the part of the story where it's kind of slow for me. It's kind of like, ooh, sometimes getting to like 700 words is like a struggle, because I looked at my chapter count, and I looked at the word count for my chapter, and I was like, surely this has to be like 4,000 words. I've been working on it for like ever. Nah, it's only like 2,000 words. I'm not there yet. And I'm like, it can't just be massively shorter than the rest of the chapters. So I'm going to have to like come back and beef this up. And I know that. And it's just like, all right. But I know that about myself too. I'm an underwriter. I know most authors are overwriters. I am not. I'm just going to assume until somebody tells me like, what did you mean? I don't understand. That's why I need beta readers. That's my problem. I acknowledge it. That's my crutch. So I'm rambling.
Well, that's why we're critique partners. And yes. I'm an overwriter, but I feel like I'm an overwriter with just random shit that don't, make any sense. Like, this book, there's burlesque, there's dancers, there's fashion, and so I find myself having moments where I'm describing it all, I think, in too much detail, but that's just what, to me, feels like too much detail. But I kind of am thinking I would rather have it and have somebody say, okay, you can, edit it, than do it the other way, just for me personally, because I know when I underwrite, it's hard for me to, like, rise to the occasion to then add more. Does that make sense?
I 100% understand where you're coming from, because I had this issue recently, because I think I told you, Ben, basically he's a beta reader or alpha reader, whatever Greek letter you need to call him. He reads the stuff as I write it. And
alpha.
Yes, he's an alpha reader. So as he was reading it, I had this like really long, not long scene, but I had like 4 paragraphs describing the life of this in-girl, basically. And she's not important. She does not come back in the story, but she had a whole life, a whole backstory, goals and aspirations, a complicated relationship with her mother and her twin brother. And he read it and he was like, so you need to get rid of this, because I literally don't care. And I was like, that's fair. That's the only time I've ever overwritten that I can think about in like recent memory. But
we love the honesty though. Yeah, I mean, I think I do probably have some of those moments in this book, but it's also, I think, hard when you write like a magical book, because you want to include a lot of those scenes and you want to fill in the world, and so you want to include scenes with maybe characters that aren't necessarily important to the plot, but maybe they're doing magic, and your main character's like, ooh, what is that magic that you speak of? So it's hard to know what will help build and fill in your world, and one is just filler shit that you need to just chop. Tom rewrites.
Exactly. Especially for me, because I agree with Emma. She said that dialogue comes quickly for her. And so that's the same for me. And when I'm writing dialogue, I tend to think about how characters are going to say stuff. And then that comes into why do they say it like that? And then I becomes like this character is super important. And it's just like, nah, honey, honey boo boo, they're not. They're not. They're just here to fill out the conversation because they're literally at a restaurant, so the waiter needs to interrupt them periodically, right? Nobody sits at a restaurant and has a 2-hour conversation before they get their food without interruption. It just doesn't happen like that, you know? But I'm trying. I'm trying to like narrow it down, and maybe I'll like do a one shot for my patrons one day where we find out what happens to Asta and Kara. But right now, no, not in the main story. Definitely not.
Hey, it's good to have that in your back pocket so you could write it for your patrons and like your newsletter and things like that. It's nice to okay, this is not the story that needs to be told now, but in the future somebody will want to read this. So
exactly,
it's nice.
So that being said, Amanda and I could talk for a long time, and just so you guys know, this is adult tea that I am drinking. If you know what that means, great. If not, I'm not going to explain it because rules and regulations for the internet. That being said, I can ramble. But if you guys are cool with it, we're going to go ahead and jump into our first sprint. Tamara has already dropped it in the chat. She's working on postcards for her patrons and now trying to finish a short story for Medium. I love that Tamara has her hat in so many rings. Like, she writes everything. Like, she's on it. It's amazing. She's also on YouTube, you guys, so if you're not following or subscribed to her, you should definitely do that as well. But that being said, we've already talked about what we're doing. So, you ready to do this first sprint? That was a no. That deep sigh was a no.
Yes, I'm channeling Titus.
I love it. Okay. All right. That being said, we got this. Also, I'm going to be streaming Chill Hop, you guys. I figured out how to do that legally on YouTube. So, gonna be a little background music so it's not dead silent this time. But if it is too loud or whatever, just let me know and I will adjust it. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I know sometimes you guys come into the chat. I don't talk during the sprints, just so you know. That's just a thing with me. But yeah, okay. Rambling. Let's sprint.
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, Amanda, you've got to mute yourself this time.
Muted.
Okay. All right. That is it for that sprint. We all back. Hopefully. Hopefully this didn't malfunction while we're going.
Hello.
Oh, but yeah. So, if you're watching this, how did you do? What did you accomplish?
I got 498 this time.
Dope. I got 501. So, a quarter of the way to my goal.
Nice.
I am kind of enjoying writing this scene. Like I said, my character is meeting one of the gods for the first time, and it's been kind of interesting trying to figure out how the gods are different, if that makes sense, so that I'm not just like writing one personality into like 4 different or 5 different characters. And so this one is like, I don't know, it's so weird because I recognize how strange I am as I realize that I'm about to put this idea into words for the internet. But I was minding my own business, just, walking around my house doing little tasks or whatever. And I was like, what kind of energy do these gods embody? And then I was like, the main one, he's like super prideful and arrogant, right? So he's like, no, he's the type who was like, I am a god and you will bow before me, right? Like, he has that kind of energy. But I'm like, this one that I'm writing now, he's just kind of like, I'm a god whether you acknowledge that or not, right? So he's just like way chill and like super cool, but at the end of the day, it's just like, don't get too comfortable though. Like, I can still end your entire existence with a thought, right? So it's kind of interesting trying to write characters who have like reverence for the gods, but also like they have to interact with them. So what does that look like? Like, if you actually met someone who could like kill you with a simple snap of their fingers, but they don't want to, right? But they could. How do you interact with them? What does that look like? So that's kind of where I'm at, if that makes any sense.
It does. I love that. The scene was I'm doing kind of the setup that like characters down in the dumps, she's made mistakes, she's gotten into fights. The last scene I wrote before this is that she's a necromancer, her powers are expanding, and so now she can essentially allow herself to be possessed by a ghost to, have them help her take on some kind of power or whatever. And she does that, and she gets into a huge fight, like physical fight, and then she's the one that gets yelled at because people only saw what she did and not the other side of the conflict. And so she's kind of in this place of like, people are against her, everybody's talking about her, she, hasn't done what she said she was going to do, which is help solve this murder. And so it's kind of that lead up to her getting the breakthrough to solve the murder. So it's kind of those moments of like, this sucks, and she didn't do things right, and she's a failure, and she's crying over cornflakes and frosted flakes. Let me not be basic cornflakes.
She said not basic cornflakes. She's got sugar, you guys. She's got frosted flakes.
She's got the, hey, if you're going to cry over some cereal, it needs to have some sugar in it. Like, because at that point, you just need some love. Like, you just need...
Honestly, because crying over cereal is like, it's going to get soggy while you're crying. So you're really not setting yourself up for a win.
Right.
But I love it. I honestly can't wait to read it. I know it's going to be amazing. Just so you guys know, Amanda also has 3 other books out. She has To Astera in Desperation, To Alaris with Love, and she has and she's part of an anthology of girls of might and magic. So you should guys check that out if you would like to. There's a link to the Melanin Library in the description box below. All of them are on there. Just search Amanda Ross, and she's gonna pop up. So my book is finally available on Amazon. Finally. So
we love to see it. We love it.
That was an ordeal, you guys. Let me tell you, because I'm over here. Oh, wait, before I get into this rant, first of all, Tamara is also here. She said she ate lunch and added 150 words to her story. So, congratulations. Eating. You guys, if you saw me dipping my head, it is because I have food down here. So, I'm not over here just like randomly, like being a little minion or anything. Like, I'm trying to eat off camera and be delicate about it.
I was like piecemealing. I had this like fig bar, you know, this like Nature's Bakery one, and I was like piecing it out and just trying to be like slowly eating, so I'm not obnoxious for the camera. But
so like if you saw me dip my head and then you came up and I came up and I was chewing, I'm like trying to cover my mouth because I'm just eating. I have not eaten today. I was not a good adult taking care of myself, so it is what it is. You know, we do what we have to. But yeah. Read Love Listen is also here. Hello, how are you doing, love?
Hey, girl.
And just doing some thinking. Emma Decker said, just doing some thinking for that one. Have some plot points involving evil eye, amulets, spells, and trying to figure out the logistics of it all. That sounds amazing. I love any type of like fantasy, anything that's quote unquote different. I put those in quotes because everything is different, but I don't know any other succinct way to explain it. But I like stuff like that, so I get into it. And my book is called Keeping Promises. I will send you the link because literally Amazon just sent me the thingamadoodle today saying that it's supposed to be in the Kindle store. So let's see.
You should post about that on TikTok.
About how it hates me?
Well, that it's officially, okay, that it's officially there, you know. I'm sure you've probably had people wondering.
Yeah, so it is here. It is on Kindle for $2.99 if that is something that you're into. So yeah, I'm dropping a link into both chats because I should do that just yeah. So there we go. It's in there twice. It's going to show up on the screen twice because I'm on Twitch and YouTube. But yeah, so it took forever. I don't even know why it does this because it still has my pen name that I got rid of a long time ago. So I have to figure some things out with Amazon because it does not like me. But yeah. Anyway, JC Henry is here. Hello, how are you doing? D Blair Gold, congratulations. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you guys do check it out, I hope you enjoy it. If you want to read a preview, you can check that out on my website. There's a link in the description box below. It's just written in melanin.com. You can read a preview. You can read the prologue and the first chapter for free on my website to see if you like it. But yeah, I ended up having to go and update a previous version of my book because that's the one where people had already reviewed it. So I was like, bump this. If Ingram Spark isn't going to do what it needs to do, I'm definitely keeping this ISBN so that these reviews are going to stay. So those are honest reviews, you guys. People actually read my book when it came out originally. And I just re-released it with a new cover and a couple of tweaks and edits. So hopefully you like it. If you like Childhood Friends to Lovers, that's it. But that's the extent of me promoting myself because this makes me really uncomfortable. So...
I give you a 10 out of 10. You did very well.
Thank you. I am trying so hard. But yeah, that being said, I will say this: that is probably the only contemporary romance that I will ever write. It's just not in my heart to do that anymore. I really love this fantasy that I'm writing. Hopefully, other people also love it because I'm having the time of my life writing it. So.
Well, they will. I love it, the stuff I've read. So you've already have one reader, yay. Even though, you know, we're CPs. So
yeah. Well, that makes me feel
contractually obligated.
She's like, I have to love this, so I'm going to say it even if I don't mean it. But no.
No. So I have to read it. I don't have to love it, but I do love it.
Sorry, I thought you were going to be talking longer. But yes, I'm glad that you do.
Sorry, that is a big-ass cup. I'm sorry. That is like half your face. Can you hold it up, please?
Yes, this is my cup, you guys. I don't give a sip.
I love it, but yeah, girl, it is like half your face.
Whenever I'm drinking adult beverages, I have to make sure that I'm getting the most out of it. So I have to get the extra large cup so that I have a decent amount of like tea and not tea. So gotta have the balance. But yeah, I love oh, okay. So Read Love Listen said, what's your fantasy synopsis? If I have to do it, Amanda has to do it too. So
okay.
Synopsis.
You go first though. They asked you.
Okay, so my synopsis, I guess it's more of like a one-line pitch. I haven't actually come up with a full-fledged synopsis. Have I? I have, and I'm going to show it to you guys. Because this is a slight plug. I created a new Patreon. Not this one, not for Written in Melanin. I mean, you can if you want to support the Melanin Library, which is an online database of books by Black authors. But let me pull it up over here so that I can actually log in and you guys not see that information. But sorry, sidelined. I did create a new Patreon specifically for myself so that I can separate what I'm putting towards the Melanin Library, which if you guys watch the Melanin chat or know anything about me, that's the thing that I do. But that can be very financially consuming, and I didn't want all of the sales that I'm making from my book and what I'm trying to do with it to go towards the Melanin Library. So I created a separate Patreon that is literally just for my stories and my writing. That being said, I actually posted a synopsis on my Patreon that is absolutely free. It's a little blurb here. So you should be able to see it. But yeah, so here's my little blurb that I worked on. You guys can critique it. Okay. She was a shadow, a cultivator of death and the queen's own blade, reserved only for the disloyal and the blasphemous. She was a tool crafted by the queendom and forged in blood to be wielded by whoever was able to keep her in hand. She was destruction. Cold and indifferent, she was never meant to have an opinion on the blood she shed, never meant to question whose back she was pressed into, whose throat she was slipped across. She was the terror that haunted the nightmares of soldiers. She was a woman loved by the gods. Their mistake was in forgetting that. So,
ooh, chills.
That's what I came up with, and my little one line pitch is basically you have a group of assassins who are working together to save the gods in their realm from destruction. So that's what I'm working on over here.
And what's your official title?
My official title is called We Are the Origin. So that is what it is called. That is what it will be. And I also have a cover. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, it is absolutely gorgeous. And
yes, I need it. I need it now. Give it.
I will show it. I will send it to you after we get off the chat. But if you guys want to see it, I will be posting that for my patrons. And there are different tiers, you guys. It's just like $2. It's not even a large fry. $2 is not even going to get you a large fry from McDonald's with tax. Okay, it's $2.19. I'm just saying. Just saying. If you want to support a writer, you can.
She said, "I have that committed to memory."
I just really showed how fat I was on the internet, didn't I?
No. McDonald's fries are good, so don't even go there.
Wendy's fries are also on point. Their new recipe, I don't know what they did to it, but baby doll, it is good. It had us comparing them in a positive light. Like, we can go to Wendy's now because, sometimes McDonald's employees, they don't want to drop your fries hot, or they want to send you something that ain't got no salt. Like, why would you do that? You saw me you listened to me order 2 large fries, one for me, one for my husband. You heard me do that. You had to drop a whole basket of fries. Baby doll, why are these cold? Why? Sorry. That was a little rant, but
no, I feel you. I've had that same experience, but we have Jack in the Box out here as well. I'm not sure if you've had that, but yeah, they got the curly fries, and that's where it's at for me. It's the curly fries.
I love a good curly fry. We get them from Sonic though. Do y'all have Sonic?
Not near where I'm at. Oh, I guess it's my turn to give my synopsis, isn't it? Because you tagged me.
Yes.
Over here trying to dodge it. Okay, so my book is called In the House of Transcendence. I don't have a full blurb written just yet, but it's essentially about a necromancer named Zora who grew up in Memphis, talking to the dead for money. And when something terrible happens, she flees to Savannah to try to start a new life. There she meets a very mysterious and self-possessed witch by the name of Birdie, who says, I can help you control your powers and become, your most powerful, highest self if you help me solve the murder of my fiance. And she brings her into the fold of this witch community where there are 3 witchy houses that look after and take care of all the witches in Savannah. And Zora then also dancer at the magical burlesque club that Birdie owns, all the while trying to solve the murder, come into her power, avoid the mean girls, and love.
I love how you said avoid the mean girls. Like, aren't we all?
Yes.
But I can vouch, you guys. I have read like the beginning portion of this, and it is absolutely amazing. You're going to absolutely love this. Not gonna lie, I love Birdie and the whole romance, the love interest. I just want to say, Amanda, that I called it. I called her love interest in the notes when you first let me read it. I was like, ooh, this one's gonna be important. So I felt intelligent for figuring that out. But
yes, but I did want it to be like a thing, but I wanted it to not be a mystery that this is a love interest, but I kind of wanted it to be like, it's obvious to the reader and everybody that this person feels the same way that Zora feels, but Zora is so in her head and so self-conscious that she can't see the signs that this person is clearly digging you, and she's
it's like,
not me.
That's why I say it's going to be amazing, though, because, I mean, everybody has moments like that, where they're just like, surely this person's just being nice. They're nice to everyone. It can't be that they actually like me. And then you have people, you're like, no, they definitely like you. They're not that nice to me. You're like, nah, they're not. They're not.
Yeah, and they'll present you with a text that said, yeah, this person says that they think you're hot. And like, yeah, but like maybe it was just that one day when I was wearing that nice dress and I had my...
It's like they're in love with the Instagram version of me, with the filters and the makeup and I don't even look like that, That's not me. They're not in love with me. Any reason.
Well, both of our books are going to be pretty solid, very magically wonderful. So if you are fantasy readers, I guess mark your calendars because they'll be coming out hopefully soon. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely, and I can tell you that for sure that mine is going to be a duology. So there's this book, and then there's the next one. I've told Amanda what the titles of the next one's going to be because I tell her everything. But that's information I'm going to be saving until I am done with this book because I've learned not to count my chickens before they hatch. So I'm going to finish the first book first. But Read, Love, Listen asks, do I have a pre-order link? Because that sounds amazing. I do not, because it's not actually finished yet. January 10th, Amanda and I are exchanging work. So once I have a finished, completed draft, I will probably go ahead and put it up on Amazon for a pre-order later on in the year. But I'm trying this new thing where I'm just like, okay, I can ramble. So if I'm getting too wordy, you guys can for sure let me know. We can jump into the next sprint. But I kind of have this idea because, like the world is changing and the way we consume content is shifting, and we don't always have the time to like sit down and read a whole book. And as an indie author, sometimes I ain't got the funds to just invest in a whole book and everything that's needed up front. So something that I'm trying this year, 2022, with We Are the Origin, is if you're part of my Patreon, like my personal patron, the one I just showed you guys, on any tier, then you're gonna get the entire book before it is released, and then at the end of the year, probably around November, I'm going to, or maybe a little earlier, but in the fall, I'm going to release a physical, actual copy of the book. But if you want to read it, I am starting in February, once Amanda and I change work, I am going to be posting the entire book pretty much on Patreon. So if you want to sign up for it, I would appreciate it. And you'll also get extra tidbits. So like the cover and stuff, I'm going to be posting that probably next week-ish sometime if you want to see what that looks like. So yeah.
I can't wait.
I'm really excited about it. Hopefully it works out well. It's basically like...
It's going to be so good.
Yeah, it's basically like Vellum, except for me personally, and I don't have to split my funds with Amazon. So if that interests you, it's going to be bi-weekly updates. So twice a month I'm going to post a new chapter if that interests you. But yeah.
This would be wonderful. I'm not there yet. I haven't done other stuff. I don't have a cover yet. I'm still just trying to get this first draft done. But early next year, we will be dropping stuff. So if you follow me on social, follow me at the author on Instagram and TikTok, 2 E's. I'm into the author with 1 E on Twitter, and I'll covers and snippets and all that. So if you want to learn more, go ahead and follow me.
You should definitely do that. I follow her and can confirm that her content is amazing, and you're going to want to know about it. So, just saying, throwing that out there. But yeah, if there's anything else that you guys want to know, for sure, ask away. Let us know, because as you can tell, we love talking about our own stuff and our stories. But that being said, we all here to write. I love how Read Love Listen took me up on that immediately. How long does it take to finish a first draft? I went first, so you can go first this time, and then I'll answer.
Okay, so for me, it takes. Let's see. It's hard to answer because each book I've written, I've had to start and stop it for various reasons. But I will say, generally, if I was to be writing the whole thing and I didn't have to stop for like outside life that always gets in the way, it would take me about 4 to 6 months from outline, character profiling to finishing the draft. I'm really like a firm believer in not writing every day also, unless you want to, but I think if mentally you can't or scheduling wise you can't, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't write every day. I didn't, and I still have 2 books in a series and an anthology co-published, so you don't need to, and I'm proof. Yeah. I will say that it's also to, when you're writing your draft, to be just focusing on getting it done and not focusing so much on trying to edit to where you stop completely in your tracks and then you stop writing altogether. It's one thing to like how Chelsea does, she rereads what she's written, maybe does a little bit of revision here and there, and it's also if you find a plot hole or something absolutely doesn't make sense, then go back and fix. But otherwise, you should try to just, shut your editing, I call her editing bitch, shut your editing down, and just write the story. And if it's gonna, and as you're writing it, you might, like I do, be like, this is shit. I'm writing shit against the wall. But it's gonna be good because you'll be able to edit it later. So just focus on getting the story written and do what you have to do to have the story in mind, whether that's outlining or having like a bullet point list of what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Your turn.
I was going to say that I 100% agree. I always say, like, when I edit, everybody's brain does not work like mine, so I don't necessarily encourage people doing what I do, but it works for me in the way that I think. And so, like, when I go back and read, it's always, like, glaringly wrong things. So, for example, yesterday I went back and I reread it, and there's a specific order that the gods bless the characters in my story. I have it written down. It is important. It comes into play later, right? But when I was reading through it, it was just like, this god skip line, okay? That's not supposed to happen. And it was just I was tired and I was writing and I was just like, I know this needs to happen. This person does get blessed, but it does not need to happen in this order. It does not need to happen before this person. So then I was just like, okay, well, let me take this out. I threw it in what I call my graveyard, which means I'll come back to it later and maybe resurrect it and be a zombie line later. But it's just like, it's not for here right now. And then when I go back and read it, it's not like the continuity in my head of the most recent thing that I wrote. It's not messed up in my head. Otherwise, I'm going to be thinking about it like, did I actually make sense? Does this line up with the last thing that I wrote? That's how my brain works. Everybody don't work like that. I don't encourage it. It's not for joy, okay? So.
It's not for joy.
Let me just preface it with that. But to answer the question, though, for me, it depends on how you look at it. Because for Keeping Promises, I wrote Keeping Promises in 2 months. I was also angry writing because I had just quit my job, and I was like, man, F this bitch. I am not finna be out here teaching, and she thinks she run my life. She don't know me. She don't know me. I'm about here. I'm about to be creative. I'm about to write this whole book. I'm about to be successful. I'm about to run my own business. Whatever. She can kiss my boots, okay? Because she not running nothing. All right. So I was angry writing. It was done in like 2 months. But that being said, there is a lot of forethought that goes into it before I actually start to sit down and write. And I realized that my process, again, is not like most people's, because I will think about an idea for like 2 years before I ever do anything with it. So, like, even now as I'm writing We Are the Origin and I'm thinking about these characters in the duology, I have another series that I'm working on in my back of my mind, just so you know, that's called Soul Conductors. I'll probably never mention it again on the internet until it's ready. And then I also have another one that I mentioned on Twitter where it's like I want to do something with like time traveling, magical. I talked to Amanda about it. She knows. So even though I'm writing one story, I am still thinking and outlining and plotting and coming up with characters and worlds and scenarios for other stories, so that when I do sit down and write, I started We Are the Origin in September. It's going to be done in January. So what, September, October, November, December, January. So that's like 5 months roughly. And like Amanda, yeah. I don't write every day. I write like 3 days a week because that's the way my brain allows me to be productive. I try to write more than that, but when I do, it's very forced. And when I come back to it, it's just crap. It's garbage. It wasn't worth writing. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the questions. I rambled, but yeah. That being said, Emma cannot talk. Answered the question. This is my first book, so it's been a beast, but it's going forward like 4 to 6 months. Sounds about right. Read, Love, Listen said, that's been my problem. I had to stop multiple times due to moving back to the USA, house hunting, and kids' online school. So it's been a year of pausing. I'm thinking of putting it down and starting a new story or a short story. Then I stay in research mode forever. Yeah, that's the thing. When you have to pause, it does get overwhelming. Because sometimes when you have a lot of time, it's like I have to come back to it, and where did I leave off? And you can easily, for me at least, I can fall down an editing rabbit hole coming back if I've left a project for like 6 months, trying to figure out where I need to pick up at. So, yeah.
Yeah, I started writing this book, I want to say, in March or April, after I took a break from writing to Alaris in Desperation. And while that was with my betas, and then with my editor, I started writing in the House of Transcendence. And then around the time that I started really doing the publication and the marketing and all that for Alaris is when I put this down, because I couldn't focus on life and doing regular marketing plus book launch marketing on top of everything else, and then tried to write this book. So I put it down for like a month or two, and then I started back in October. And I think October, and then we're in December now, and I did a count the other day, I've got 62,000 words so far on this. So I think I started this whole thing with like 30,000. So over the last couple months, I've written over 30,000 words. Oh my goodness!
Perspective,
wow,
right?
Like a self, like moment.
That's a win. That's definitely a win. And also, I agree with like when you're doing other stuff, because if you guys have been on the channel for any length of time, or you know me at all, you'll know that I put out another book, Across the Broken Tide by LaCase Cousineau. Like, that was published through Written to Melanin Publishing. And while I was doing that, I could not write at all. Like, at all. It was all consuming. So I literally just finished everything with LaCase. Probably, I started in September? Probably around August. July, August is when everything with her finished, so that I could switch my focus over to my own stuff. And then that's when, the re-release of Keeping Promises came out. And now I'm working on my next book, which is more than halfway done at this point. I don't have as many as you. I've got 55,000 words, a little, well, 55,500. And my goal is 80 or possibly 90. I feel like it's pushing closer to 90 in reality. But
Yeah.
Point is, I've gotten that done in like a month and a half. So there's
Winning.
Yeah,
so that's like
time is everything.
Yeah.
Time is everything. But yeah, I was not able to multitask, i.e., working, degree, writing. So I've only been able to properly make progress after taking a job that allows me the majority of the day to write. Yeah. I will say this, and then we're going to jump into our next sprint. It is very difficult. The common advice is that if something is important to you, you will make time for it. But the reality of it is you only have so much energy throughout the day. And I don't know anybody who plays video games, but sometimes I feel like it's like playing Harvest Moon. And if you never played Harvest Moon, basically you're a farmer on a farm. And for the very beginning of the game, all you can do all day is you get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, you water your crops, and then at 8 o'clock a.m., 2 hours later, you're going back to sleep because all your energy is spent. Okay? You don't have a lot of stamina. And I feel like life is like that. Like when you have other things to do, you have plans. Like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to make time for this. And you have time, but you don't have the energy. You don't have the mental capabilities to be like, okay, I just spent 8 hours, you know, even if it's not a crappy day, a good day, but I just spent 8 hours or 10 hours realistically once you factor in driving and lunch, right, at another job. And then I had to come home and spend like another 2 hours with my family, you know, taking care of like basic bodily family functions. And now I need to sit down for another hour, an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours to write and be creative because this is what I really want to do. Our lives are just not set up like that. So making time for it is important. But if you can't, also mad respect for it. You know, do what you can when you can. But yeah.
Right. And it's also about, you know, let's not even talk about if you have any kind of chronic illness, if you have any, you know, mental illness, any kind of anxiety, depression. We're all still living in a panorama, even though people want to act like we're not, we still are. And so all of these things play into the mental energy of being able to write. And like I said, I mean, I've written 2 books and co-published an anthology, launched a YouTube channel all during this time. So it's possible. You just have to give yourself time if you need a mental day to just sit and watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I did last Sunday. Glorious. I laid in bed for 8 hours and watched Buffy and had donuts, okay?
Honestly,
highly recommend.
Yes, we could probably talk about this for a long time, but I also 100% agree. Taking care of your mental health is so important, especially it's stressful. Like there are definitely people out here like Amanda doing it all, right? But then there are also people who are just like, you know what? I made it through the year. Both of those are 100% valid. Like you are not expected to just be out here doing the whole thing. Like if you want to, for sure, do it. We're behind you, support you. If that's not your thing, also don't feel like you have to just because other people are. Everybody, here's the thing that I've realized during this whole panorama, as you say, is that there have every year up until now, people have always been doing something that you weren't doing. When you start is when you start. It's just you're noticing it now because you have more time and there's more emphasis on it. But let me tell you, people were starting businesses back in 2015, okay? They were quitting their jobs and being at home and hitting hard times and having to figure out how they were going to restructure their life. This, like everything that's happening in this panorama is not brand spanking new. Okay, it's just it's happening to everybody collectively at the same time. Some people are turning, what is it, lemons into lemonade. Some people are over here planting lemon trees to try to get their lemonade. Whatever works for you, you know. But I'm rambling. We need to write because y'all know I will run my mouth. So if you want to hear me run my mouth, January 11th, coming back for the Melanin chat. Gonna be here 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be here for that. So yeah. Anyway, 30 minutes on the clock. You still good with 30 minutes or you want to do 20 minutes?
30 minutes is good.
All right. 30 minutes on the clock. How did you guys feel about the music? I am going to go ahead and play it if there are no dissenting opinions. But yeah, happy writing, everyone. That is it for that sprint. So, whew, Betty, how'd you guys do?
508 words today, or this moment, not today. This moment.
Awesome, awesome. I've got to do some math. Hold on. Hey, okay, 8:42 that time. So we're up to 1,300 words for the day. So more than halfway there. Whoop, whoop.
Hey, one more sprint and you'll be good to go.
Hopefully. That's what I'm aiming for, because after we get off here, buddy, I'm be tired. But hopefully it's good. I don't know. Adult T may not, sober Chelsea may not like what this Chelsea has written. We will see. But I'm feeling pretty good about it, though, honestly. This scene has been, it's been fun. Like, I'm wrapping it up. I realized as I was writing it, I think I mentioned this earlier, like plot holes, right? I know I just wrote one in because without giving away too many spoilers, there is a very dangerous creature in this world that is not so dangerous to some members of the main cast. And I was as I was writing it, I was like, he should not know this quite yet. It doesn't line up with what I said in previous chapters. So either I'm going to have to change what I wrote in previous chapters, or I'm going to have to edit this so it makes more sense. But we will see. We will see. But it's getting there. I'll say that. But yeah.
Yeah, I was writing about food. I'm a little hungry.
I know that feeling.
Yes. The scene was still that in between the love interest. Artemisia, I'm going to just say, because I've had people not know how to pronounce her name. So when you do read the book, Artemisia, she brings over food for my main character as well as a bottle of Douce and is trying to comfort her. As you do with somebody that you care about and love.
Yes.
So.
I love it. And I'm glad that you said it. Because in my head, I want to call her Artemisa. And I'm like, that ain't it. It's not spelled that way. This is wrong. I know this is wrong. But
Artemisia.
Artemisia. Okay. Got it. I will do my best to keep that in mind, because I am known to completely screw over a name in my head while I'm reading it, and it's just like, I recognize that that's not what that name is, but I've been calling this person this name the entire time. Best example of this, and I love to mention it, is in LaCase's story, when I was reading it and like editing it for her, she had a character and her name was it started with an X, and I was just like, there are no vowels. No, it had an X in it, but it was spelled Uxue. And I was like, okay, so this is nothing but vowels, and the only letter in here doesn't have a sound. How do you say this name? And I was just like, the whole time I read her first draft before I had talked to her about it, I was like, the girl with the X. The girl with the X. The whole time. And then when I asked her, she was like, oh, it's Uxue. And I was like, so how is anybody supposed to know that? Because X does not make a sound in our language. And it has like a cultural meaning or whatever. But the whole time, girl with the X. Uxua, I think that's what I called her. So yeah.
I mean, it's not a bad name. I do think when it comes to names, sometimes you have to be mindful that people might not know how to pronounce it or something.
That being said, as I was writing, I don't know if you guys saw, but I was just sitting here laughing at myself, because I just decided, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, that there was a character that I was getting rid of. Well, he's not getting got rid of. It's just his character's going to be different than what I thought it was going to be. So it's a plus. I get to keep someone that I really liked. But then also his older brother appeared with him, and I was like, oh, you have a brother now. That's interesting. Didn't know that. So I have a question. if y'all sold this name, I'm just gonna drop it in the chat. How would you pronounce this? I'm curious, and I'll drop it in Twitch chat too. And it's Shian.
Well, I would think it would be some kind of like Irish name. So I think Shia. So I'd think like Sean.
Okay, you say Sean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like Sheehan, but then I think okay, maybe it's Irish, so like Sean. You know. Am I wrong? What is it?
I just want to see what the other guesses are in the chat before I say. So Luthaz is here. First of all, hello, welcome. You are not late at all. We just started early. Normally we stream at 3 o'clock and we started at 1 today because I didn't gonna lie, I was lazy and I was like, ma'am, can we please do 1 o'clock my time instead of your time? So
hey, that's fine. I got errands. I still have gifts. After this, I'm gonna be.
You have Christmas shopping to do? Ma'am, I did mine last week. Not last week. Yes, Monday. What is today? I don't even. Time is irrelevant. I guess I did mine on Wednesday.
Time's a social construct. It's
yes.
Wednesday.
According to the social construct, I did mine on Monday, and it was so crazy out there, and I was just like, "Nah, bruh, I can't do this next year. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't."
I forgot my best friend, like. Best friend since childhood, so she's like a sister, and I knew her birthday is tomorrow, but I also kind of forgot because I've been so busy. So I was like, okay, I got her a Christmas gift, but then I realized, oh, I should probably get something else, so it's not just a Christmas gift / birthday gift. I should probably get her something else, and then I have a couple other people I got to shop for. You know when people go, oh, I got you something that are like friends, and you're like,
oh,
I wasn't planning on getting you anything, but great.
You know, you're so nice because I'm literally that friend to be like, ooh, I didn't get you anything. Like, that's my response to that. I can cash app you $10. But no, that's so nice that you're doing that. Okay, so the way that I was thinking of it in my head, this name, I was thinking his name would be Shion, kind of like the poet. And so,
okay,
I was just wondering if that's how, when you read it, if that's what you would see. But you saw Sean, Lathasa saw Cheyenne, and Tamara also said either Shion or Cheyenne. So that's I don't know. You know how characters just come to you with names, like you did not name them; they had a name when they popped in your head. There we go. That was my example.
Yeah. Well, an example for my book is. Main or secondary characters, her name is Patty. She's supposed to be like late 20s, early 30s, but her name is Patty, short for Patricia. And I was like, ain't nobody named Patty. But I couldn't think of any other name. I'm really struggling to think of another name that starts with P. But I also like don't,
Penelope?
She's got like a very vintage throwback style where it's like rockabilly, and I don't want to age her, but she in the first draft her name is Patty, and I gotta figure out how not to make her sound like a 50-year-old.
Honestly, I love people who have like out of generation names. It's just like, oh, okay. I saw some lady on TikTok, and she apparently named her child Poot. Like, that's her government name. And I'm hoping, like, she's, like, kidding. I'm hoping that this was just for the TikTok. Like, she's just being dumb for the TikTok. But I'm like, I hope you did not name your daughter Poot as her government name. Like, that might be a cute nickname for around the house when she's an infant. But, baby doll, let that girl be 5 and going to school. Like, yeah, so names are important, you guys. All that to say. I love how your face is just like, gosh.
I mean, I've had friends who wanted to name their kids wild names. I do know somebody who Carol.
Wait, what?
In the 2820, her daughter's name is Carol. She's a baby now, a 1-year-old. Her name's Carol. And I was like, well, she's a beautiful baby, and this is a choice. Best, all my best. I think it's cute, like, if that's a name, a family thing. It is a throwback name, so I would want to be mindful of how people might.
Yeah.
Maybe give her Kara as a nickname. That's cute.
Oh, I'm all good for, like, names and then giving them a nickname that they can live with, But, because I'm not gonna lie, I thought if I had a girl, I would consider naming her Carol because that's my mother's middle name. And so, like, be a family thing because my name is Chelsea, but I'm named after my grandfather. His name was Chester. And so they needed a female version of that. So that's just kind of a thing in my family where we kind of, you have the name of an older family member. But I think, but you also have to give them something to live with, I think, And like you said, you have to come up with a cute nickname. Like, if her name is Carol, like, at least give her a pretty middle name that she can go by until she's old enough to, like, grow into that name, At least that's my thought.
Yeah, Carol is definitely a professional name. Like, if you're a lawyer, I'm like, okay, your name is Carol. Okay, Dr. Carol. Like, I'm here for it. But I do think as a teenager, she's probably going to need to go by some other kind of nickname or something.
Yeah, they may just call like Cece or something, You never know.
Yeah.
But Tamara, yes, Poot. P-O-O-T, like passing gas. That is what she legally named her daughter because she thought it was cute. And I don't know if she was maybe on drugs when she signed the child's birth certificate. Maybe the epidural had worn off. I don't know this woman's story. It was a TikTok. It was only like 10 seconds. But I hope that she was just flexing for the TikTok and not actually doing that to her daughter.
See, so here's a wild thing. So my grandfather on my mom's side is named Carl. Okay. Carl Robinson, which is a name. It's a name. Very strong name. So, my mom and her siblings are named Carl Jr., Carla, which is my mom.
Okay.
Carlton, which is her brother, and Carlin, which is the youngest of them. My mom told me that when I was born, she initially wanted to name me Carlotta. A lot of Carla to make me. And my father said, not know what hell no. We're going to go with simple, beautiful, like Amanda. And, if you want a family thing, you have her middle name. My Anne. Grandma's name is Anne. So Amanda Ann. Cute.
Yeah.
It goes. Carlotta. Almost was me.
I mean, you avoided a fate. You gotta thank your dad for that. There's nothing wrong with the name. It's just very...
Too many people, okay? Like, that's too many people with a car in their name. That's why they all have nicknames.
There's a point where you kind of have to deviate from what's always been done in the family, I think. I think the only time that's not okay is that there are 4 kids and there's Carl Jr., Carla, like a Carletta, and then you got Roger. I would feel left out if I was Roger.
Right. Well, so they all have these names, and that's why they all have really weird random nicknames.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's how it is, but I know that the nicknames are not like abbreviation. It's like some
random name. Like, I don't know what was up with nicknames in like the 60s and 70s, but they have nothing to do with your actual name.
Right. My oldest uncle on my mom's side, his name is Punchy.
I wouldn't even ask why. I just accept that as facts.
And my mom's youngest brother's nickname
is what? You cut out.
Goo. Goo.
Well, I have an aunt who's named Boo, like the ghost, like Boo. You know, that's her name. So I did not even realize until I was like 10 that that was not her government name because nobody called her anything else ever.
So you just were like, my Aunt Boo, this is my family tree, this is my Aunt
Yep.
Sarah, this is my Aunt so-and-so, this is Boo, this is Roger.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Um there I had an Uncle Nib. Didn't know until his funeral when I saw the obituary that that was not in fact his name. Um so they're they're yep.
Mm.
They got names. They got names. But we actually did have a question from Luthaza, and it's not on the screen anymore. But do you ever feel the pressure to write the next great novel, or do you feel like it's largely BS to NYTBSL being bought so often? New York Times bestseller. Sorry. So yeah, do you ever feel like the pressure to write the next great novel? Or do you feel like it's largely BS due to New York Times bestseller being bought so often?
Um. So I think this is where the idea and your own definition of success comes into play, because I think that if you consistently orient yourself around definition of success, then that might not feel you might not feel burdened by this idea of the next great American novel. Oh, that like if you orient yourself around your of success, you have that pressure to write the next great American. And I think when you are like as Black folk, when you're LGBTQ, when you're part of any marginal, slightly because like I have to be the one to also be a representation, but and that's cool, and I think that is something to strive for. But I think if you consistently have this, I have to be the one, I have to be writing more.
Oh wait, Amanda, I can't hear you.
Oh no, what?
I don't know. Hold on.
Unconnected. I'm not muted. Unmute. All right, I'm muted. Can you?
Say something?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. But
Okay.
before I could see your mouth moving, but you were cutting in so much, all I heard was every other word.
Okay, what was the last thing you heard?
When I asked you to repeat yourself, and you're like, the success depends on what you think it is or what you want it to be.
Oh, right. I think when you are part of any marginalized, it can be easy to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, when you're part of any marginalized group, there is a bit of pressure to feel like your book has to be kind of one to help others behind you and kind of open doors. And I think that that's great to have in mind. I think you have to consistently be thinking of what is your definition of success and constantly like checking in with yourself to make sure you have that in mind. If your definition of success is great, but what also does that mean? Like, is that it? Is that the end all? Or achieve it? You're gonna pack things in? Or are you wanting to have a sustainable career? Because I think New York Times bestseller, Amazon bestseller, things like that. These are great things to have along the map of career, but I think if you focus too much on that, it feels on a sprint and not the marathon.
Yeah.
The marathon is the career. It's the having books, having a huge catalog of books, having your name out in people's mouths, being visible on other platforms, such. And if your book does hit, that's great. But I think it's better to think about everything as the long game and to not necessarily things of success. Because then it can turn into pressure, and then you won't be writing authentically because you're writing to. I have to write it this way because the way that it'll be New York Times bestseller. When you should just write it the way that you want to write it, and if it's not, then the next one could. You don't know. It could be your first 20th book. So I don't think that's something they always be about.
I agree. I think it exactly what you said. It depends on what you want, and it also depends on, like you said, the short term versus the long term. Because also, kind of like you said in the question, the New York Times bestsellers list. I'm not going to take anybody's um, achievements away from them, but also for me, I kind of got disillusioned by the New York Times bestseller. The more I learned, because just like it's just how do I put it? There are some books that are really hyped to the gods, and they're New York Times bestsellers, but that does being on the New York Times bestseller does not equate to the quality of a book. And for me, in my personal definition, I wouldn't say that I feel pressured to create the next best novel, because I want to create the novel that the person who picks it up needed to pick up when they picked it up. That is my goal. Like, I want to write a
That part.
story that people connect with on such a level that they're like, I'm so glad that I picked it up. I want to write a book that people feel like, ooh, you haven't read this book? Let me tell you about it. Please, I want people to feel like I want to be loud about this book, and I want other people to read it and to love it as much as I do. That's my aspiration. Like, I want to connect with readers, and if I hit a New York Times bestseller list, that's great. But that I feel like that's also in some ways it can be an arbitrary aspiration, especially if you are not going the traditional publishing route. There are a lot of, I'll say, wiggle room and games and certain discussions that have to happen in certain rooms in order for people to be on that list. I'm not saying it's rigged. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying that when you're playing a numbers game, it's easier to play the numbers when you have money. And as indie authors and self-published authors, sometimes we just don't have that kind of leverage. And that's okay,
Yeah.
But
well, and also when you're not this, right?
Yeah.
It makes it all that much harder to do that, because we've seen the number of bestsellers that are by color, let alone, and that number dwindles. Black people, I'm sure that number dwindles, aren't about how to teach white people not to be racist. Like,
yeah,
we've seen that, and I think that yeah, exactly. Like, it, to your point, we don't know how good those books are. Not all of the books are good. And also, it's kind of like, win an Oscar, right? Like, that's this huge achievement, but let's think about the number of Oscar winners after they win the achievement who go on to have a successful, thriving career. And also the number of actors or writers who don't get this accolade, but that still have this,
yeah, and
this, bountiful career.
And I think that's the point, the big point that I feel like some people miss when it comes to indie and self-publishing authors. And because I know for a fact that you've gotten the question of when are you going to go traditional publishing as an indie author, and I know that it's something that I have been asked if I was going to ever consider, trying to go the traditional publishing route. And I'm not going to lie, sometimes it plays in my head like, it would be nice to just write a book and send it off and it be somebody else's problem until it comes out, right? But one, that's an illusion. That's not how it works. But also, that's sometimes the way the question is worded, it makes it seem like there is no other valid way to be an author other than to eventually go traditional publishing so that you can be on a New York Times bestseller list, so that you can be the next big thing, so that you can have your book in movies and audio formats and possibly
Right.
in conversations. But the thing is, there are a lot of books, especially by people who look like us, that are amazing, who are traditionally published, who are not in those conversations anyway. And for me personally, I am just kind of like, I don't know. I want to do things the way that I want to do things. That's why I created a Patreon for my story, so that people who want to read it, I can go ahead and give it to them without having to wait and go through this proper process, I'll say, of writing the book and then editing the book and then getting the cover and investing all of this money up front, and then you not actually getting the content that you're picking the book up for until like months later. You know,
Right.
there's just a lot of, I'll say, a lot of energy that's not always positive energy surrounded around I have to be the next whatever, because, and I said this before, specifically closer, I think about a year or so ago, or 2 years or whenever, when Toni Morrison passed, and so many people were like, who's going to be the next Toni Morrison? And it's just kind of like, no one is, because she was Toni Morrison and no one's going to be her. And when you start putting people in boxes, like, you have to be the next insert great author or insert big book here, you start taking away the reality of what they have created and what's the person that is in front of you. So it's just like, if you want to be the next Harry Potter, that's cool, but also understand that there are a lot of factors that played into her being as big and successful as she was, and those factors just don't play into it today. And she's not exactly the role model you should be aspiring to at this point in life.
That part.
But
and the other thing is, yeah, like, once, you know, how iconic was it when Children of Blood and Bone came out? Everybody, I think, even if you didn't read the book, it's not your genre, it was still this wellspring of people being excited that this book came out. Yep. And, you know, that this writer, this young Black writer, you know, put out this wonderful book that it was on everybody's lips, and that is wonderful, and it's great, and it's a great book. And I think what I'm saying is that became the new benchmark then for people who wrote books that were epic fantasy after. Oh, well, how alike is it to Children, Blood and Bone? And I think that does a disservice to Black authors specifically, who then get put, you know, there's how many white authors are there, right? A ton. Mm-hmm. So many. But when it comes to, like, iconic Black authors, when it comes to other, like, POC authors, even visible LGBTQ authors, it's like, we can't put ourselves in those boxes because we don't have too many boxes put in, you know? Exactly. There's not as many as straight white, especially male authors that we can, you know, compare ourselves to, or that are in the stratosphere, if you will. So I think we do a disservice to our own by trying to compare, you know, Legendborn with Wings of Ebony, with Children of Blood and Bone, with Raybearer, and all of this shit, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is, for me, and this is just a personal thing, and I realize that it may be an unpopular opinion, but I really dislike this tendency of traditional publishing. Part of the reason why I don't like traditional publishing, just as a reader, is because they always lump together the same type of books and they push it at you constantly. So, like, when you do get Children of Blood and Bone, you immediately also get Wings of Ebony, Raybearer, A River of Royal Blood, a Song of Wraiths and Ruin. And not to say that any of those books are bad. All of them, objectively, as far as I have known, I have them on my shelf. I haven't read all of them just yet. But they're all by Black authors, and they all have the exact same pitch. It's Children of Blood and Bone meets this, because you have a Black girl based in Africa and she's got magic, and that's really all you know about the book, even though all those books are vastly different and tell different stories, but you're pushed them all at the same time, and it's like, that's the only story that you get, until you get, like, then you have, like, this current push of, like, that's more urban, like, of Wings of Ebony and Legendborn, both which are incredible and amazing. But also, you kind of get them at the same time, so you're getting the same story in different, well, not the same story, because they are different, but you're getting the same type of premise, the same type of environment, instead of being like, okay, I've got one book set in Africa here, and then one book set in the United States here, and then I've got one high fantasy here. Like, it's all, either they're all the Black girls are in Africa, or all the Black girls are in the United States, or all the Black girls are in some high fantasy world that you really have to read the maps and the legends at the beginning to understand. And it's just like, I would like to see it be more diverse. Like, give us all the books and let us choose what we want. And that's one thing I do love about indie publishing, and this is something that you can look into further for yourself, but, like, indie publishing sets the market for traditional publishing. Like, what's successful in indie publishing, traditional publishers will see, and then they'll be like, oh, we need to do that too. So, and I will say
or
this.
They'll grab some of those books, you know?
Oh, yeah. Because that's why you have a lot of hybrid publishers, at least the ones that I have talked to. A lot of them were like, they went hybrid because they self-published a book themselves, and then it got a lot of, like, traffic, and then they were picked up by a traditional publisher. And some of them still self-published their books, and some of them stayed in that route, but it depends. Like, so it's it's an interesting thing. But I will say this, you know, with indie publishing, there's a lot of us who look like this. In traditional publishing, there's a lot of us who look like this, you know, and trends. I will say this: TikTok is not the only place where trends are taken and pretended to be original. So that part. But
Well,
Tamara had to dip out, so I don't know if she's still watching, but glad you were able to come and sprint with us and work with us. Have happy holidays. Have a good week, love. And
yes.
um, Luthaza asks, so will these be like Wattpad stories, or will you guys actually pursue independent publishing? And I see the Patreon as an independent publishing avenue. I am going the independent publishing route with We Are the Origin, which is the book that I'm working on currently. Um, I still have it up, so I can click over here. So I have a Patreon up. It's literally just patreon.com/CM Lockhart. I will drop a link down in the whatchamacallit. In the chat. So if you want to check it out, you can, because I don't think I put it in the description. Mm-hmm. But basically the reason I'm doing this, I mentioned this earlier, but I don't think you were on the chat just yet. I want to go ahead and release my story once it's done. So, but there's a lot of prep work that has to go into releasing a book that I'm just kind of like, I want to try a different outlet, because people come for the content. And yes, the cover is pretty, but I have also seen for myself that the reality of it is, as an indie author, a lot of people buy the digital version of a book and not necessarily the physical version of it. And I still want to create that. But at the same time, if you want to go ahead and read the story, I can tell you right now, the story is going to be done in January. So if you want to read We Are the Origin, I'm going to start releasing chapters in February. And I'm also going to have updates and little tidbits and stuff that I'm going to be sharing with my patrons. And I have $2, $5, and $8. So you can pick whichever tier that you like, and they do come with different things. The $2 tier is just early access if you just want to read the book. $5, I will send you the ebook. Once it's finished, complete, has the cover, the official version, I will send you the ebook. And $8, I will acknowledge you in the book. So you can pick whichever one makes you happy. But yeah, I'm the type of person where I like to be in control of what I am creating. And I just want to try something different in 2022 to see if people like it, you know? Because, I don't know, people pay for Wattpad. People pay for Webtoons. People pay for, you know, Vellum, Amazon Vellum. So I'm just kind of like, if you don't, I'm one of those people, and I've kind of gotten off on a rant, so I apologize, Amanda. But I will say this, and I'll let it go. I am one of those people where I don't pay for coins on those sites. But if you have a Patreon, I will go to your Patreon and support you directly versus paying another service to give me coins that I have to use to pay for your stuff, where you get a cut of that. I like to take out the middleman. So I have created this for that exact purpose. Like, if you just want the story and you don't want to have to pay Amazon and you just want to support me as a creator, please do. I will. It's not just this story. I'm going to be using this Patreon for all of my stories going forward. We Are the Origin, its sequel, the Soul Conductors, probably the time traveling Black girls. All of that, it's going to be on here. So I ranted. I am done. Thank you for listening.
Well, and two, I already have, you know, books out that have been indie published. My books, Two Is Stare with Love, is indie published. That's already out, came out last year. Two Lars and Desperation came out back in September. Published Girls of Might and Magic, and that came out in June. So I already have 3 books out, self-published, and I still plan to be putting my books out self-published and for the foreseeable future. You know, I think traditional sounds nice, but from all of the things that I've been told and heard from people who have been hybrid, it's a different scene. And I like having the ability to have control of the stuff I'm putting out, be able to put it out when I want, and have control.
Yeah.
And I love my cover designer, so I want to keep making really cool covers and shit with her, and I don't want to have to risk, you know, because I've seen people who have gone from self-publishing to then have their books be traditionally published, and a lot of times the covers change. That's cool for some people, but my covers are gorgeous, and I want to keep them.
I think, as you should. As you absolutely should, because if you guys haven't seen, her books are absolutely gorgeous. I'm gonna pull them up so that you can see, because I realized that I've talked about my books and dropped links, but I'm gonna drop links to hers too. So the first one is To Astera with Love, which is this one. And if you want to know my opinions on it, I made a TikTok about it, so you guys should go watch that. But it's amazing. You can get it from Kindle for $2.99, or you can get the paperback for $6, which I have the paperback. Can vouch that is absolutely beautiful. I need to get the second book in paperback, so it's on my shelf together. And this is the second book, which is To Alaris in Desperation. So you guys should definitely check it out. And you also have Girls of Might and Magic, yes? So
yes, that's an anthology. My short story is called Funnel Cake. Werewolves and magical supernatural hunters. So check it out.
hey. All right, so I'm dropping the links to Astera and To Alaris in the chat on YouTube. If you're on Twitch and you're watching this, please let me know if you want me to drop it in there as well. If not, I'm just going to leave it on YouTube because that's where the question was asked. So yeah, but all of that to say that you said something and it triggered a thought in my brain that I wanted to comment on. Oh yeah, just being in control. If you guys don't know, one of the other things I do on the YouTube channel is I do behind the cover interviews where I interview authors. And I recently got the chance to talk to Shauna Miles, who wrote For All Time, which is a YA romance, sci-fi romance, right? And when I talked to her, she talked about the traditional publishing process and how you have to give up so much control when it comes to your book, whether it's your editor saying to move things around or whether it is, what the cover is going to look like, because she was like, you can put in a request. You can ask for it to have a black girl on the cover, but you're not guaranteed to get that. It's not guaranteed to look like what you want it to look like. It is no longer your project, your baby. It is a collaborative project, and other people have a say in your book. And I will say this, I did enjoy For All Time. However, one of the biggest complaints that I know is about the book, because I watch reviews and stuff on TikTok and so on and so forth. One of the biggest complaints about the book is the way the timeline in the book is set up, because it's very nonlinear. And she said in her interview that was not her decision. Her editor told her that she needed to break it up, because when she wrote it, it was a very linear timeline, and that was out of her control. And it's stuff like that that you have to keep in mind, when you go traditional publishing. It was another reason why I love indie, because it's like, I have the choice of what I want to do. I have a choice of what my cover is going to look like. Also, I'm going to be sharing that with my patrons if you want to sign up for the $2 tier. It's only $2. But yeah, I mean, there's a freedom there that I think is worth it being indie, But that being said, we can definitely talk about this. If you have other questions, for sure, feel free to drop them, and we will try to answer them as we can. It is 3:30 my time. How are you feeling, Amanda? Because we've been on this stream for like 2 hours and some change.
Yeah, I am down for one last sprint. One sprint to rule them all. Sorry, like a Lord of the Rings reference. Morning. Know what's up with me. But yeah, I'm down for a sprint. See where we get to. That way you can reach your word count goal. I didn't have a word count goal. I just want to get on top of the scene so that I can feel like I made progress. Because I will be writing on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. I'm still going to be writing. They're just days for me, basically. So I'm not taking a break. I do have a deadline after all.
You do. I have one too. I need this. Honestly, I need this deadline to stay on track. I have a word count only because if I don't have it, I will be like, ooh, I wrote today. That's enough. And it's only going to be 600 words. And it's just no, if you're going to meet this deadline, you really need to sit here and write about 3,000, homie. You need to get this done. you know? So, but that being said, hopefully I will be finishing up this scene. That is my goal, because the end of the scene will actually put me at my word count should I do it correctly. And then if you guys are interested, like if you have to hop out, I will be streaming tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna be like Amanda writing on Christmas Day because I'm not gonna be at home and I'm not gonna be at like my setup. But I will be streaming tomorrow as well. And Amanda, of course, if you want to stream with me, you're more than welcome to. But I know you probably have a busy day ahead of you since you still have to go Christmas shopping.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cut to me just mean mugging people behind my mask in the store. That's all I have. I'm 4'11". I to move people. I just have a severe bitch face.
I love
the eyes.
I love that you're 4'11" because I'm like 5'8", sometimes seen as 5'9", and so I'm just kind of like, oh, you're tiny.
All I got is just a hard, cold stare for people to get out my way. So it'll be fun.
And I'm just like the person where it's just like, I don't see you. I'm going to keep walking in this straight line. I suggest that you move out of the way. So, okay. 30 minutes on the timer. Last sprint, you guys. So get what you can done, and we will talk when we come back. So, happy sprinting.
Happy sprinting.
Yeah, hey, I know that our windows are switched, but that's just because Amanda had to step out for just a second. But once she comes back and our camera's back on, we should be back in our correct squares. So yeah, but thank you for letting me know.
I'm back. Sorry, everybody. Just had to go and figure out what was going on with my internet router. So it's not a stream unless you have internet issues, right?
I was
Anyway.
like, the gremlins have to kick in. So
Right. back to writing, everybody.
All right. That is it for that sprint. So, how'd you do?
485. Count so far. 214.8 today.
Wait,
for the
to what?
1488. So 1,488 words so far today.
Awesome, awesome. Let's see here. I got 815 that time, and I am at 2,158 words for today, which means I hit my goal, you guys. Woo-hoo!
You did it! Yay!
So, I'm super grateful for that. And during the sprint, fun fact, my tea got cold. So, as any person living with another human being would do while they're streaming, I messaged my husband and I was like, hey, can you come warm this up for me? And as you can see, my cup has a metal spoon in it. So, while we were on the stream, my house almost burned down, apparently. Because my husband forgot to take the spoon out before he put it in the microwave. So, hopefully our microwave still works. But my tea is warm. So, I guess you win some, you lose some.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that was interesting. So, if you saw me on stream and I was like, that's because he was like, I almost burned the house down. And as someone who does not wish to be homeless, and it's not, when you get out of situations like that, you can only laugh. Like, ha ha ha, it's funny now. But yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. If you guys are still watching, I know we've been on here for 3 hours. So if you're still here, first of all, thank you so much for still being here.
Shout out to you.
Right? But also, like, how did you do? And I have a question, like, what was your favorite line from what you wrote this time? If you can share.
Oh.
Oh, Dee's popping out. Appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much. Well, I'll be here tomorrow probably, but yeah. Bye.
It's a 2-part line. It's 2 sentences, so I'll go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Let's see. 3 sentences. Thora nodded, trying to be brave, but in reality she was a little afraid. Afraid of doing a spell that might anger the doing a spell that was it could backfire. And afraid of what the outcome of the spell might mean if it was successful. That it was Jabari, not Birdie, who knew Marquita the most.
Ah.
Oh.
Whoa. Yes. Okay.
That'd be like some other person knowing that's like not a family member.
Yeah, I'd have questions like, what you mean, bruh?
Yeah.
Would like some explanations.
You'll get it when you read it.
I can't wait. I can't wait. For me, it would have to be the God speaking. So it would, I don't know, it's like a little snippet, but basically, he says, "We are powerful, but we do not control the flow of time. It marches onward without our intervention." He paused in front of an image with an endless stream of faces in front of him. Because we do not control time, we cannot control when the chaos will come.
Ooh, so, I love that. January 10th can't get here fast enough. I need a new book to read. Give it to me.
Hopefully it's good. Hopefully you approve, because I think I said this before, but it's so crazy. Not crazy, but it's wild for me that you're my CP, because it's just like, I love your books. Like, I loved them before I knew you. And so now that I know you and like you're going to read it, I'm like, ugh. Okay, what if she hates it? Oh my God. I'm going to die.
Girl, this is like wild that yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
You're making me feel all bashful and shit.
I'm a legitimate fan of yours. That's why I'm like, if she hates it, I don't know what I'm going to do. So.
Well, I'm not going to hate it. I already told
you say that, but I never put it above anyone to be like, it started out good, but the ending was just not it. Because I have read a couple books like that lately where it's just like, ooh, I'm so excited to read it. The beginning is, I'm so into it, I'm into it. And then whoo, the ending is just like, you know what? I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The last book I read that was the Queen of the Cicadas by, I think it's B.C. Castro, and I had such high hopes for it because it was supposed to be kind of like a ghost revenge story.
Mm-hmm.
But it ended up going off the rails about halfway through, and then at the end I was like, what did I just read? Like, I had to ask somebody, like, you read this book. Am I tripping? What is happening here?
Literally, I interviewed Shauna Miles, and I do like her, and I don't hate her book. Let me be clear. But the ending was not it for me. And I was just like, I got questions. And the consensus on a couple of bookish communities was we were all collectively like, what just happened? What happened? Like, confusion. But like I said, it wasn't a bad book. I'm not bashing her book at all. The ending was just not it for me. But a book I did read recently that I'm like, like you read a book and it's just kind of like a refresher, and you're just like, yep, this was it.
Yeah.
I just finished The Kindred by Alicia Dow, and I made a TikTok about it, but I really enjoyed that book. It was so like cute and refreshing because like how in most love stories, the story is about the two people falling in love with each other.
Right.
Her book wasn't about that, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed that. It was a nice change of pace where it's just like they're in love. It's about the story is about them getting together and not about them being like, oh, I'm catching feelings. What does this mean? He might like me. He might not. Nope, it's not that. It's not that. So, would recommend for sure if you're
nice.
into romance.
I'm in the process of read for the last couple weeks, a year. I'm debating between Ace of Spades, the conductors, Harlem Shuffle.
Wait, what was the last one?
Harlem Shuffle.
Okay.
And I feel like it was Wings of Ebony, but then I saw like this.
Wait.
Blanket.
You said you were thinking Wings of Ebony, and then
I saw a review this morning that's from somebody, like a bookstagrammer, who just had a lot of questions about the book and didn't really vibe with it. So maybe I'll read, one of the other ones that I know is like highly recommended because, I want to end the year with it.
I feel that 100%. If you want to read one of them together, let me know. I have Wings of Ebony, The Conductors, and what was the other one that you said? Ace of Spades.
I have Ace of Spades, yeah. And then Harlem Shuffle, that's that one. Because I want to recommend it to my brother.
Okay, I heard in Harlem Shuffle, and it cut out, and then you said because you want to recommend it to your brother.
Oh, yeah, I keep cutting out. Yeah, I want to read Harlem so that I can, like, give it to my... He likes... Read it first.
Yeah, you're definitely cutting out. I don't know if it's Discord or not, but I did catch the gist. I caught the most of that time. I don't have Harlem Shuffle, but yeah, if any of the other ones, if you want to do a buddy read, I got you. I was thinking between Wings of Ebony and My Sister the Serial Killer. I also have a couple more arcs that I really do need to read. I have A Comb of Wishes by Liza Stringfeld, and I have Blood Scion by Deborah. I can't remember her name. But I can pull it up here so you guys can see. Sorry, it's the tea talking. But yeah, I do need to read those. But other than that, I don't think I'm going to read them before the year is out, though. Deborah Fillet, I guess is how you... Fillet? I'm not sure, but it's this book. I have an arc for it that I need to read. So I'm got to get on that. But you can't see this, Amanda. Why am I pulling this up like you can see it? I'm so dumb.
You're fine. I think, you know what? I think I found an article that was reading the first chapter of Blood Scion. So I have this article, Nerd Daily, about reading the first chapter.
Got you. But yeah.
This is it, right?
Yes, that is it. So, going to also be reading that, but I'm trying to do this thing where it's just like I read one book that I have to, which Alicia Dow sent me a copy of The Kindred, which is why I have an advanced copy of it, but I read it and I reviewed it, so now I want to do a book that I choose, and then I'm going to go back to another arc that I need to read for like review purposes to create content for. So that's either going to be it's going to be one of the books that you mentioned, because I've heard, the thing is, I've heard very mixed things about all those books, about Wings of Ebony, Ace of Spades, especially Ace of Spades, and The Conductors. So I'm just kind of hesitant to jump into one. I did listen to the first 7 chapters of Wings of Ebony on audiobook. I did not continue listening to the audiobook. That could just be a me thing though, because I was also like trying to play video games while I was doing it, and there's just too much happening in it for me to pay attention.
Yeah.
But I also know that the first 7 chapters was a lot of world building, I will say.
Right.
So.
Okay. Oh, the other one is The Other Black Girl, right? But I think, have we spoken about this?
We haven't.
Can you hear me?
No, I had a notification pop up on my screen. We haven't talked about it. I've heard very mixed things. Not mixed things. I'm not gonna say it's mixed. It's very negative things about The Other Black Girl, and that makes me hesitant to get into it, because you know what, I am who I am, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys, because that's what I do on my channel. I don't trust when a Black author writes a book and all of the Black girls who read it dislike it, but all of the non-Black people who read it tout it as amazing. I don't trust that book. That is just a personal thing. As a Black girl, as a culture, we see things and perceive things and interact with things in a certain way, and understand that when you are portraying to be a representation of the culture and the way that we see things, especially when you're dealing with things like colorism and being the token Black person and no longer being the token, that can be a very sensitive topic in a lot of ways, because a lot of us have lived that experience. So it can, I'm not gonna say it can be portrayed wrong, that's not the right word, but it can be portrayed in a way that a lot of people just don't vibe with. And if the people who you wrote it for don't vibe with it, I'm not sure if I want to read it if the people who are on the outside looking in absolutely love it. If that makes sense.
Yes, that part. That is definitely the vibe I got from that book. I also got a very similar, which is steeped in gold, in a couple of bookstagrammers I follow are Jamaican, or read the book, or from that culture, had a huge problem with a lot of it, because they felt like part of the issue, and this is what I saw for Wings of Ebony, was not knowing who your audience is, and wanting to write a book about Black culture for a huge, wide audience, which on some level is fine, and that's what you want to do, but then the issue becomes how much of AAVE do you expect, how much of the sayings do you, how much Black experience do you explain for a white audience, or kind of let it be what it is and figure it out. They can look it up, they can educate.
I will say that in the first 7 chapters that I listened to with Wings of Ebony, I'm not gonna say it was bad, but there was a lot of explaining of things that I just understood, understanding that the block is fam. Like, we got cousins that ain't cousins. That's just what it is. But there was a lot of explaining that went on in the beginning of the book, and I was just like, okay, yeah, like, this is where you're from. This is the whole block is fam. Like, I get it. These are the people you grew up with. Why are we spending multiple pages on this? But also, my reaction was also because of there's a bookstagrammer that I follow, And here's the thing for me, and I feel like this is something that we kind of have to discuss as a community, especially as Black reviewers reading Black authors within the community. But
Right.
because sometimes it feels like you can't offer criticism, because as like for me, I know specifically for myself, I am a Black woman who likes to promote and uplift Black authors. That is my whole platform. But the reality of it is, every book that I read is not good. It's part of the reason why I don't offer ratings on my channel. I'm never going to be like, this is a 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star book. I'm not going to do that, because for me personally, just because it doesn't vibe with me doesn't mean that it can't, you can't vibe with it. So I'm going to tell you the good things about it and the things that I found questionable. But I feel like there needs to be a space for critique, because one of one of the bookstagrammers that I follow, she's hilarious, and she was like, these are a list of books that need to run me my time and money back, because and when you said Which is Steeped in Gold, Which is Steeped in Gold was on that list, and it's one of those things where I say this all the time, I can't read hyped books while they're hyped, for that reason, because when they're hyped, people are like, oh my god, the book just came out and I got it, look at it, it's so amazing, a Black person wrote it, it's so good, you should read it, not even having cracked open the book. But when people actually read it, they're just like, nah, bro, this isn't what I thought it was, and then the hype just like disappears, you know?
Right.
So
That's what happened with me, because I read White Smoke when it was hyped, and I mean, I had bought it coming off of reading by the same author, and also that book getting quite a bit of criticism, uh, because of people feeling it was too similar to the Ellie's situation, and even the author said that she didn't plagiarize or kind of like lift experiences. If you watch the documentaries, you're like,
okay, of whose situation?
okay, girl. The R. Kelly, all that
Ah,
stuff happening with R. Kelly, and the grown is had echoes of that story. I will just say,
ah.
it wasn't a bad book. I enjoyed it for, but then I read, so then I got White Smoke, because I was like, oh, it's
Oh, I can't hear
my
you,
jam.
because you said,
Hi,
oh,
what
I
are you?
got White Smoke, and then it cut out.
I apologize, everybody, if I keep going out.
I'm
I
sorry.
got White Smoke because it's a haunted house story,
Yes.
and that's my jam. But it wasn't. It didn't give what it was gave. I read it, and I was just like, and it wasn't from a standpoint of this YA book, and I'm 32 reading a YA book. That's not what it was. It wasn't that. It was that it just was not. It didn't hit right. It didn't hit. Did not hit.
I read White Smoke as well. Um, I think my first TikTok was actually critiquing it. um, yeah, I 100% agree with you. It did not give what it was supposed to give. It was hyped to the gods, and then it was, to me, felt very unfinished. It felt very, it just felt incomplete. Like there were so many questions. I feel like we started a quest at so many different points in the book, and we never got the ending of the journey. And it
Mm-hmm.
the ending, it didn't do it for me. It did not do it for me. The reality of the situation did not do it for me.
Right.
Homegirl who got sent to jail, what happened to her? Why, like what happened with the stepdad and the evil little daughter? There are so many questions that I had. I'm not going to spoil you guys for the book. It's not poorly written. Tiffany Jackson is not a poor writer as far as writing style, but this
Mm-hmm.
book, if you she I had this is the only book by Tiffany D. Jackson that I have read. I would not recommend it, but I know that she is a good writer. At least that's what other people
Right.
say. So I just can't vouch for her personally. I'll say that.
I think, yeah, I would say, having read two of her books so far, I would agree. She's not a bad writer. I think this was her first foray into horror, and I don't know how much horror she's read and consumed.
There's also that, because
because like so as an example, I don't read romance. It's not my ministry, it's not my jam. But if I was to read, I read books that are fantasy or whatever that have a romance component, like a saison of romance. But if I was to write like a a whole entire ass, I'm gonna write a romance book, you better believe I would be consuming nothing but romance leading up to and while I was writing it, to make sure that I was steeped in the genre, to understand conventions. Because my thing is, if you're gonna subvert something, you have to be able to like understand the thing that it is you're trying to subvert.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think she fully understood it.
The way I see it, it's just like when you like, it's like when you're from somewhere and you're learning how to drive, right? You got your license, you know your hometown like the back of your hand. So if there's traffic on the highway, if like I'm from Greensboro, right? So like if 29 is backed up, baby doll, I can get home through town, okay? I know how to avert the problem, right? Because I know the highway, but I also know where I'm going and I know how to get there without taking the main road that everybody else takes, okay? Writing is the same way. Like you cannot go to a brand new town that you've never been to and just be like, ooh, I'm going to skip the highway and I'm going to go through these little neighborhoods and towns that I know nothing about and still get to my destination without getting lost, because you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're doing. You haven't spent enough time here to do that. Like if you need to take the highway and just be stuck in traffic with everybody else. But it's better than getting lost and not knowing where you're going. But yeah.
Right.
But again, I also say that there's nothing wrong with writing in a new genre, because I definitely fall into that, because Keeping Promises is a whole ass contemporary romance. We Are the Origin is not. It's a high fantasy. I've never written it, but I've read a lot of fantasy. I've read urban fantasy, i.e. Amanda's books. I have read like mid fantasy, where it's just like it's not quite urban, but it is placed in like the real world. And then I have read some high fantasy stuff, and it's just kind of like I have an idea of it, and then I take in fantasy in different mediums. I think that's also discounted a lot when you're writing. Like you don't have to just read books in the genre. You can watch movies and watch TV shows and read articles about like real life events, and or short stories or whatever it is. Like you can steep yourself in the genre without having to read nothing but specific like fantasy or horror, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
But doing that is important, though. Not gonna lie. Otherwise, you do kind of look kind of crazy. It's kind of like if you're out here saying, "Oh my God, nobody has written a magic book story where the main character goes off to school and meets like their best friends, and they go out here and defeat the big villain." You're not subverting expectations by writing that, darling. That's not how this works. That's not how the genre works.
And there's nothing wrong with writing something that has that same kind of that thing, right? There's nothing wrong with writing another academy. I think it's like an academy trope. There's nothing wrong with that. But who is the rap that says, did you improve on the design? Did you do something new? Like that's what the goal is, to do that.
Oh, who said that? Did you improve on the design?
I want to say
something new?
Is it Lupe Fiasco? I think is what it is.
It's definitely Lupe. But I can't remember. It's from his Lasers album, I want to say, but I can't remember which song.
Is it Superstar? I feel like
maybe
it's Superstar.
Might be Superstar. I was thinking of the J. Cole line, actually. It's like his middle child. It's like I studied the greats on the greatest right now. It's like or he has a line, I can't remember it right now because T. But basically, I was watching you when you was paving the ground. I studied the greats on the greatest right now. It's just like, yeah, other people have laid out the groundwork. You just got to build on top of it, And I think that's the biggest thing with writers. Is like we have to remember nothing is original in the sense of it's never been done, because the world has been around for a long time. But you have not done it yet. You have not put your own spin on it, your own take on it. And that is what the world wants, Like going to school, I'm sorry, if you write any book about a child, there is going to be a school involved somewhere, or there should be. Or the lack thereof should be explained,
Right.
Especially if you're based in the United States, where going to school is a legal requirement, you know? So it's just kind of like you can't avoid the academy trope to a certain extent. But also, it doesn't have to be. I'll say this: your magic doesn't have to be wands and spells. It also doesn't have to be incantations in books. You know, your magic can be whatever it is that you need it to be. Like, I'm not gonna talk about it here on the live because if you want to know, I gotta keep some things a secret. But like the magic that I'm trying to incorporate into We Are the Origin, I like to think that it is unique to what I am creating. There are rules and regulations to work within, and it's not something that is like Harry Potter, where it's just like anybody who has magic can go to school and learn. And Hermione is not unique in that she has all of this magic that she can just summon up. No, she's unique in that she studied hella hard and she knows a lot of
Right.
things about a lot of things. But that could be anybody who has the drive. But I got on a rant. I'm gonna stop. So, but Luthaza said, I read horror Stephen King so far, but I do read Afrofuturism as defined by Nadia Corfor. I love sci-fi things. I also like mystery and political espionage. I want to write political espionage. And I think having a diverse taste is important. Like, if you like fantasy, great, but don't just read fantasy. Read romance. Read speculative fiction. Also, read everything. Read everything. Read nonfiction.
Yeah, read
literary
different
fiction.
types of fantasy too, because what I find is a lot of people who are fantasy fans, there tends to be this kind of, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. There tends to be kind of a bouginess about it, where it's like only stuff set in other worlds, and this kind of idea that like dystopian urban fantasy stuff that steampunk, if you will, that's a little more sci-fi but has fantastical elements. There's this idea that like that stuff is like a Buffy or Charmed, though that's not fantasy, and that's not true. They are fantasy. There's fantastical elements. Game of Thrones isn't the only fantasy in town, mama. So I think it's like diversify. If you're reading in a genre, you should also diversify. If you're reading horror, don't just read bullshit. Read the slasher stuff. Read the historical. And it's one thing if it's like, I love horror. That's my second favorite genre. I love it. I cannot handle body horror because it physically makes me ill. But I have an appreciation for it. So it's one thing if it's like there's an aspect of it that just you don't vibe with, but still have an appreciation for it, versus being like, oh, well, that's not true horror. That's not this. That's not that.
Exactly.
It's like, don't be bougie.
You can have things that you like without being dismissive of it. Because, like, for me, I love fantasy, but I do tend to read more, I'll say happy fantasy than, like, dark fantasy. Not that I don't read it, it's just not my preferred type. I like people who find magic and get to go on an adventure versus people who find magic or had magic and it, like, completely destroys their life. Same thing with, like, urban fantasy. I love Amanda's books. I love them so much. But the difference for me is with some other urban fantasy that I read and just couldn't get into is just that I like urban fantasy when it's like it's still a unique thing in the world that you're writing versus, okay, I have to go to my regular 9 to 5 job, but I also have magic, but I have to keep it hidden at all times. And I'll say this to you, Amanda, like, I really like that Mercury uses his magic on a day-to-day basis, even like he's getting ready, and it's not something that he's hiding. It's not something that he is ashamed of. It's just like, this is who I am. This is the community that I am a part of. I don't like urban fantasy where it's just like, I have all this power, but nobody knows about it. I don't like that trope in any genre. Like, I'm overpowered, I'm way powered, but I'm taking all this nonsense because I'm not trying to stand out. Bump that. You best believe if I can burn this bitch down and you talking shit to me, I'm finna burn it down. Okay? Check yourself. Right? But that's just me.
It's just like,
that's just me.
Yeah, that's one of the things that rubbed me wrong when with the Charmed TV show, this whole thing about like not using magic for personal gain. It just felt like, well, then what the fuck is the point of having magic if you can't use it for personal shit?
I understand it having limits, but
yeah, but like Dude, if I was telekinetic, do you know how much? Do you know that I would not need nobody taller than me? Because again, I'm short. If I was telekinetic, you best believe I'd be grabbing the stuff from the tall shelf, the stool. I wouldn't have to do short girl Olympics and climb on stuff. If you know, you know. I would be getting my stuff without the help of anybody else, and I'd be using magic every single day because it's a part of me. It's like breathing. It's like texting. It's like that. It's part of my day to day. That's what it would be.
And you best believe I also don't like urban fantasy where people aren't using their magic to make money, especially when it's something that they can't hide. Like, okay, you're a telepath. You can read minds. Okay, cool. Baby, if you are not an interrogator in the police force, what are you doing? Huh? Why are you not just reading minds like, "Oh, he did it. Yep, he did it. Read it, seen it, done it." The hatchet is buried in 6 countries away. It's actually in Africa. He sent it on a plane. He chopped it up into bits and sent it on a plane. That's where the murder weapon is. Okay? I know all the details. You know? But it's, yeah. But look, we have been on this live for like 3.5 hours, you guys. And while this is while this has been fun and, you know, me and Amanda can talk, we are going to actually wrap this up here so that you guys can get on with your days. Thank you guys for hanging out with us, especially if you've been here since the beginning and you've been hanging out with us for 3.5 hours. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Like I said, I did actually drop links to everything. So if you want to pick up To Sterile with Love, To Alaris and Desperation, or Keeping Promises, or you want to sign up for my Patreon to read We Are the Origin, I drop links to all of that in the description box on the YouTube channel. If you want to hang out with me tomorrow, follow me on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/CLockHeartRight, because I will most likely be streaming there tomorrow so that I can try to actually hit this deadline. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Amanda on YouTube because she is amazing and you should definitely indulge in all of her content because she's got some really cool stuff coming. I've heard about it. I know that she's got amazing outfits planned for you guys, so you should definitely subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed already to Written in Melanin, you should do that as well because, like I said, the Melanin Chat is coming back January 11th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to be talking about all things related to everything Black and bookish. So yeah, that's the whole thing. Like this video if you're watching this in the future. Thank you. Comment so let me know you watched it, and subscribe. That's the whole thing. Turn on notifications, and appreciate you guys. So until next time, you guys, I hope your days are lovely and your books are interesting.